Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Azan Nur Ashifa binti Muhammad Nur Azlan. So today I would like to start this presentation of our topic, which is international industrial relation. So for the introduction, industrial relation is a group of phenomena concerned with defining and regulating the employment relationship inside and outside the workplace. International industrial relations, so-called IIR, deals with the complicated relationships that exist between employers who hire foreigners, employees with different nationalities, home and host country governing bodies, and trade unions of organizations that operate in various countries around the world, as well as their national and international federations. Organizations are under pressure to standardize process and policies as a result of globalization and international commerce. The effects of globalizations on human resource management are caused by openness and penetration of economic structures to outside factors. This is undoubtedly a two-way street, with local groups and global enterprise both embracing one another's HRM practice.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Muhammad Nazir bin Aryan. The first issue in international industrial relation is who should handle labour relation, either headquarters or the subsidiary of the concerned country. The multinational corporation typically assign industrial relation management to their international subsidiary due to the significant difference in the inter-industrial relation system produced by regional difference in economic, political and legal system between nations. However, a decentralization philosophy does not prevent corporate headquarters from exercising some control over labour relation strategy. Corporate headquarters will become involved and monitor a labour agreement assigned by foreign subsidiaries, since they may have an impact on the company global goals or provide example for their negotiation in other regions. Other than that, the most critical factor leading to the centralization of industrial relation function inside the corporation analyzed was found to be the high degree of integration. When transnational sourcing patterns emerge, when a company in one region rely on other foreign subsidiary as a source of component or user of output, industrial relation throughout the system become of the direct interest of corporate act. Lastly, the other factor influencing the issue is the nationality of the subsidiary ownership, which influence who should be in charge of the employee relation. Several studies have revealed that US business have more centralized control over labour relation than the British or other European. The study discovered that British owner subsidiary had a far less centralized labour relation decision-making process than the US owner business. The more interconnected nature of US business, the greater the difference between the US and the British labour relation system, compared to those between the British and other European systems that are more ethnocentric managerial approach of US business are all contributing factor to this management method difference.
Another critical issue with the international labour movement, particularly with multinational collective bargaining, is social and identity, which is the absence of identification among individual employees and team members. As for international industrial presence, the notion of encouraging workplace peace and democracy, social identity is considered the most pressing issues in this area. In this case, individuals view these huge groups as significantly more conservative than local campaigns due to social and identity. Social and identity in the workplace could lead to hardships for the company to grow. However, despite the fact that India is a poor country, McDonald's has been fairly successful in India, as indicated by the large and relatively prosperous middle class, estimated to number between 150 million to 200 million people, attracting McDonald's. According to the research, despite the country's extremely distinct eating culture, millions are still lured into India's McDonald's as a consequence for their own design of an Indian version Big Mac, which is called Maharaja Mac, created from mutton, taking into consideration of the country's 140 million Muslims and banning pork and beef, leaving them with chicken and mutton. This is incredibly daring of India to bring in McDonald's despite difficulties such as their own cultural reverence for the cow, despite the fact that McDonald's is the world's largest user of beef. The company's capacity to alter its business ideas is rewarded with success.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Azari Razik bin Zaman. Next, the key issue of international industrial relation is trade union. Trade unions employ a variety of strategy to deal with global businesses. The most typical strategy is strike. A strike is a planned brief cessation of work done to apply pressure. The bargaining power of a union may be undermined or diminished by the financial resources of an MNC. So, unions should exercise prudence before going on strike in an international setting. This is particularly obvious when a multinational company uses cross-subsidization of its goods or parts across many worldwide locations and transition sourcing of its product. For instance, during a strike, employees leave their job and do not want to come back until the problem has been fixed. According to University of Minnesota Library, the effect of a strike can affect parties beside employers and strikers, as students at Yale discovered when they showed up on the university in the fall of 2003. For example, when 4,000 dining room workers went on strike, students had to scramble to find food at nearby mini markets. The workers finally received what they wanted, which is better pension plans, after a 23-day workout that was the 9th at the institution since 1968. Although a strike conveys a clear message to administration, it also repercussions of employees because they are not paid during a strike. Unions frequently offer cash reward to strike to reduce their financial burden. Some unions employees are not permitted to strike. For instance, strikes by government employees are prohibited because they endanger the welfare of general public. In addition, a trade union strategy is to push for modest national laws. For many years, trade unions have pushed for limiting national legislation to prevent export of employment through policies promoting multinational investment. Trade unions demand stringent national laws. Direct lobbying and grassroots lobbying are two categories of lobbying. According to Duke Government Relations, they define direct lobbying as any attempt to effect legislation through communication with any colleague or employee of a legislative body or any government official who may be involved in the composition of the legislation, but only if the primary purpose of communication is to influence legislation. Additionally, according to Duke Government Relations, grassroots lobbying is an effort to influence legislation by attempting to change opinion of the general public or any particular group of the public. A message to the general public will be regarded as grassroots lobbying if and only if it makes reference to and expresses an opinion on a particular piece of legislation and calls on the recipient to act with decency.
I'll mention a specific organizational example that is about discrimination at Google and inappropriate handling by the HR staff. So Chelsea Glasson was a researcher with managerial responsibility at Google, and she had been working there for 4 years when she in 2018 got moved to another team. The boss at this new team was new, and she was pregnant, and she immediately felt discriminated. The boss implied that her upcoming maternity leave would quote-unquote rock the boat, implying that she would be let go from her managerial responsibilities. She then filed a complaint to Human Resource Department, who, as a response, offers her 10 mental health counseling sessions. Ms. Glasson later filed a pregnancy discrimination lawsuit against Google, and when she did so, her mental counselor did not want to be affiliated with her, as it may would be able to harm her working relations with Google. And Google subpoenaed the notes from the sessions between Glasson and the counselor to argue that Ms. Glasson had personal issues and her termination didn't have anything to do with a toxic work environment. Moreover, an anonymous Google executive told the New York Times that whenever an employee reports an issue to the Human Resource Management Department, they offer up to 20 mental health counseling sessions for free, even though it has nothing to do with the problem. And I'm not saying that mental health counseling is a bad thing, but Human Resource Management expert Erica Scott argues, quote, "Counseling can be problematic when it's used as a stopgap to quick fix to resolve tense workplace relations that might not legally be considered harassment or bullying, but that are nevertheless unacceptable." Quote ended. Furthermore, records of notes from an intimate health counseling session between a counselor and a patient should not be used as against the patient in a legal battle, because that undermines the purpose of the counseling. The organizational structure in this situation is not serving its purpose correctly, as the mental health counselor is used to be is supposed to be helpful, but it's used in an unhelpful manner towards the employee. A structure where Google would hire an outside psychological consultant, which is independent from Google, would be a better solution. This situation displays a rotten and unhealthy work culture, and Ms. Glassman has experienced a lot of discrimination at work and was terminated, as I said, and the help she got from the company was being used against her by the executives. This article by the New York Times displays other examples of a rotten culture. As an example, the former Google executive Emmy Nightfield, who said that I hated the way the company treated me. It made me sick. Quote ended.
As an example of specific organizational examples, we have one dealing with industrial relations at Google following a sexual harassment scandal. It was in 2018 on November 1st, where walkout protests all over the world from thousands of Google employees took place. This was all the way from Singapore to London and Berlin, Seattle. So really an international problem in the Google organization. It came after misconduct and sexual harassment had been toned down after some executives did this, and they received lucrative exit packages. But when leaving the company after being charged with sexual harassment cases, as I said, this is both an international and a local HR issue, where you really have to deal with it in both each country and also internationally. And this shows how employees can demand cultural change throughout the company and how they do it, where it's like a bottom-up push for change. The change doesn't have to come from the top leadership. This way, the employees they didn't like what was going on, obviously, and then they did this protest to show it all around the world. So this must lead to future changes in the organization of Google and how they work and operate all around the world. They could do like local and international standardization of HR practices, as harassment, sexual harassment isn't allowed anywhere in the world, of course, and shouldn't be inside the Google organization. This would also give everyone sort of the same mindset and the same culture to follow and to protect employees to have a good working environment inside the organization of Google. And if they have this international HR practice where everyone is on the same page, then this would also help in the case of dealing with different expatriates inside the company, traveling from one country to another for working in Google.
For the conclusion, international industrial relations, IRR, is concerned with the complicated connections that exist between companies that recruit foreign nationals, employees of various nationalities, governmental authorities in both the home and host countries, and trade unions. Multinational firms often delegate management of industrial relations to their overseas subsidiaries. Corporate headquarters, on the other hand, have some say over labor relations strategy. International industrial present the notion of fostering workplace peace and democracy. The most crucial issue in this area is social identity. Unions also utilize this strategy to advocate for small national laws. That's all from us. Thank you.